Darts are missile weapons, designed to fly such that a sharp, often weighted point will strike first. They can be distinguished from javelins by fletching, i.e., feathers on the tail, and a shaft that is shorter and slash or more flexible, and from arrows by the fact that they are not of the right length to use with a normal bow. The term has been used to describe an extremely wide variety of projectiles, from heavy spear-like ammunition for siege engines or atlatls to tiny poisoned needles for use in blowguns. Plumbati or martio barbuli. Plumbati or martio barbuli were lead-weighted darts carried by infantrymen in antiquity and the Middle Ages. The first examples seem to have been carried by the ancient Greeks from about 500 BC onwards, but the best-known users were the late Roman and Byzantine armies. The best written source for these tactical weapons is Vegetius's treatise known as De Re Militari, 1.17. Prehistory. Some of the earliest evidence of advanced tool use includes remnants of an early type of dart, which can be considered the ancestor of arrows as well as bows. See operation. Reconstructions of this system have a range of over 100 meters, yards, and can penetrate several centimeters of oak. This technology was used worldwide from the Upper Paleolithic, late Solutrean, c. 18,000 to 16,000 BC, until the development of archery made it obsolete. See replacement. Construction. The darts in question are much larger than arrows, but noticeably lighter than javelins. They have a weighted point, often of stone, on a removable foreshaft. This is held by friction onto a thin, flexible main shaft a few meters in length with fletching and a, usually socket-like, nock at the opposite end. Since they are unlike anything in Western history, the term dart has been adopted after some debate. Some alternate terms for this missile have included the spear, but this term has fallen out of favor since in all other uses, spears are stiff enough to be used for stabbing. In its function, an atlatl dart is more like a combination between a bow and an arrow. Operation. Its similarity to a bow may not be immediately obvious, but in fact both serve to accumulate energy by elasticity in a fundamentally similar way. As throwing begins, a dart of this type is designed to flex in compression between the accelerating force at its nock and the inertia of its weighted point, storing energy. Late in this throw, as the point moves faster and so offers less resistance, the dart releases most of this energy by springing away from the thrower. Some energy may also be recovered by the fletching as the projectile fishtails through the air. However, this energy is far less than is commonly stated and only effectively increases accuracy by counteracting the downward force on the tail. Atlatl. To maximize elastic energy storage and recovery, such darts should be held only by the nock and allowed to pivot freely as they are thrown. This requires a special tool that is often called a spear thrower. Western culture has been able to borrow a name for this tool from the Aztec, who used it against the invading Spanish, and who called it the atlatl. Replacement by the arrow. In Europe, the atlatl was supplemented by the bow and arrow in the AP Paleolithic. By the Iron Age, the amentum, a strap attached to the shaft, was the standard European mechanism for throwing lighter javelins. The amentum gives not only range, but also spin to the projectile. Archery may be easier to learn and have a faster rate of fire, yet perhaps this system's greatest advantage over the atlatl is that ammunition is easier to make and transport. Since the dart must store almost all of the system's elastic energy, more care, planning, and weight of elastic material must be invested in its construction. In archery, the bulk of elastic energy is stored in the throwing device, rather than the projectile. Arrow shafts can therefore be much smaller, and have looser tolerances for spring constant and weight distribution than atlatl darts. For example, stone dart points from the same set tend to vary in mass by no more than a few %, and computer simulations show that this is necessary for efficient operation. Similar constraints exist for the length, diameter, and materials quality of the shaft. If the same amount of attention and material are instead invested into a bow, projectiles can be made lighter, by a factor of 5 or more, and to less exacting tolerances. This allowed for more forgiving flint napping. Greater mass becomes an advantage over archery when penetration is an overwhelming concern, as when harpooning sea mammals. This class of dart was used by Aboriginal Arctic hunters such as the Aleut until fairly recently. Reconstructions. Darts, plumbata, and atlatls have been constructed by modern enthusiasts, either with ancient materials and methods or with high technology borrowed from modern archery. While some do this in the context of anthropology or mechanical engineering, many view the practice as a sport, and throw competitively for distance and slash or for accuracy. Throws of almost 260 m, 850 feet, have been recorded. Other traditional darts. The darts in use by the developers of the English language, see thrown darts, below, were used throughout Europe for much of its military history, though they were never a dominant weapons technology. They have also lent their name to quite a few weapons from other cultures. Thrown darts. It is quite reasonable to speculate the darts used with atlatls were adapted from hand-thrown darts, which in turn were derived from light javelins. In Europe, short but heavy pointed darts were sometimes used in warfare. These had a length of about 30 to 60 centimeters, 0.98 to 1.97 feet, and resembled an arrow with a long head and short shaft. The Roman model, the plumbata, was weighted with lead. In some legions, 5 of these were carried inside each soldier's shield. Reconstructions show a range of 70 m, 77 yd, or more when thrown overhand in the fashion of a German stick grenade, Model 24. Feathered spears or darts. Feathered spears, often called darts or javelins, were used in medieval and Renaissance Europe, both as ceremonial objects and as weapons. It is possible no examples have survived, presumably due to their fragility or the deterioration of their fletching making them indistinguishable from spears, but they appear in multiple illustrations from the 15th and 16th century. As ceremonial items, they are shown held similar to scepters by military commanders and leaders such as Emperor Maximilian I. Many other illustrations show large darts being wielded as weapons, either on the battlefield or in smaller engagements such as judicial battles. Depictions show them as being 4 to 7 feet long, with arrow-like feather fletching, barbed points, and thick shafts comparable to conventional pole arms, presumably able to serve for both throwing or handheld striking. Some later artistic depictions suggest they may have also been used for hunting. Kestros. The kestros fendun, or kestros, was a sling-launched dart, invented in 168 BC for the Third Macedonian War, probably similar to hand-thrown darts of the period. Casting one, according to surviving records, requires a specially designed sling with 2 unequal loops, though it is not entirely clear whether this is a stave sling or more closely resembles a shepherd's sling. Siege engines. Some of the many Chinese and Greek siege engines and their descendants can be classified as dart launchers. These include the ballista and the Scorpio. Blow darts. The blowgun can be used to fire darts, as well. Often, these are quite small, and do little harm by themselves. Instead, they are effective due to poison spread onto their points, from, for example, dart frogs or curare. Rope dart. This is a pointed weight attached at its blunt end to a length of rope or chain, which can be used to throw and retrieve it. It meets the definition above because it flies freely when no tension is applied to the rope, has a point end in the form of a square of cloth, even has fletching. Shenbiao is a discipline of wushu devoted to its use. Swiss arrow. A Swiss arrow, also known as a Yorkshire arrow, is a dart thrown using a cord to make the dart go farther with the same power. Modern darts. Of the darts still in widespread use, perhaps the closest to traditional thrown darts are lawn darts. These are large and heavy enough to be thrown by swinging, and to seriously wound a person when thrown. An indoor game of darts has also been developed. Steel-tipped darts generally weigh 18-26 grams and maximum of 50 grams is allowed in amateur or professional competitions such as the World Series of Darts. The common length of a dart is generally 15 to 20 centimeters, 6 to 8 in, long, but rules allow for up to 30 centimeters, 12 in. They are designed to penetrate dartboards made of bundled fibers, usually sisal. Tranquilizer darts are related to the darts for blowguns, but include a hypodermic needle and a hollow reservoir resembling a syringe, which is generally filled with sedatives or other drugs. These are launched from a special gun using compressed gas, a tuft of fibers at the back of the missile serving as both fletching and wadding. A type of dart still finds use in military engagements, in the form of flechettes. These are all metal projectiles, often resembling nails that have had fletching, rather than nail heads, forged into them. They were used by American forces during the wars in Korea and Vietnam, but treaties have since been enacted to limit their use. Large flechettes are used as kinetic energy penetrators in many gun-fired anti-armor projectiles. In religion, darts play an important role in ancient symbolism and mythology. In the Book of Ephesians, the Armor of God passage, 6:10-18, compares faith to a shield which can quench all the fiery darts of the wicked one. In Norse mythology, Loki tricks Hod into killing his brother Baldur with a dart made of mistletoe. In biology, numerous species of air-breathing land snails create darts which are fired as a contact shot during courtship. These are known as love darts.
Please subscribe and thanks for watching.